Welcome to the official YouTube channel for the Colin Cowherd podcast. Go on, hit the subscribe button. There you go, right down there. If you want to be among the first to hear my weekly takes, NFL, college football, more, right there. So it's interesting. Right now, currently in New York, the Mets are toast. The Yankees bullpen will probably keep them away from a World Series crown, though they're certainly viable. Jets, Giants are pathetic. I still don't buy into the Jets this year. Brooklyn Nets, always a bit of a tire fire. And in Los Angeles, the teams are doing really well. I mean, USC won 12-8, and people are critical of it. It's like they've won 10 games average last 2 years. Like that's our loser. So Chicago sports are interesting because, and I think I told you this, considering the vast sports history, not only is Caleb Williams sort of potentially the first great quarterback, it's a fairly starless town for Chicago. There was a time when Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Siskel and Ebert, Oprah, I think Phil Donahue, like it was everybody. Like it was just, it felt as big as New York. And you've got a hockey player or two that's interesting. But I was thinking the other day, Caleb Williams just isn't a Bear. He's filling a huge void in a sports crazy city. And, you know Chicago as well as anybody that I bring on the show. Talk a little bit about this city that's kind of missing like it has some founding fathers, like Mike Ditka, but it doesn't really have its next performer. Now, hockey is different, right? It may work in a city, but it's very local. Let's talk about Chicago sports, what's missing and what's coming.
Yeah, you're on it. Connor Bedard is the hockey player that you're referring to, and he is a phenom. He might be the best player in the league in a year or two. He is excellent. Fairly anonymous guy outside of Chicago. Could easily walk down Madison Avenue without being recognized. Angel Reese is now a pretty big star in terms of like Q rating. Plays for the Chicago Sky, but obviously that's a thing on the come. That's new. When you're talking about a city of Walter Payton and Mike Ditka and Michael Jordan, Angel Reese and Connor Bedard have a long ways to go. The 2016 Cubs was a team. Like they're talking about what the statue will be for that thing. You could make it Chris Bryant, but that would be leaving out John Lester and Anthony Rizzo and Joe Madden and Ben Zobrist. Like that'll probably be a collective. It was about 108 years and the curse. And so singular star power in Chicago historically has really been Bears or Bulls. Ernie Banks had it for sure long time ago. Frank Thomas, Ryan Sandberg for sure, as mentioned, Frank Thomas. But in recent vintage, you look to football and basketball, and it's been a while. I mean, we've talked about this before on the pod. Only organization with no 4,000-yard passer, only organization with no 30-touchdown quarterback. And the Bears are the one thing that everyone in Chicago agrees upon. Baseball, split, Cubs and Sox. More Cubs than Sox, but still split. Winter pro sports. Bulls and Blackhawks. Yeah, you can be a fan of both, but 82 hockey games, 82 NBA games, you're a bigger fan of one or the other, inevitably. You care much more about one or the other. It's split for your winter pro sports attention. Everyone's a Bears fan. Everyone cares about the Bears. And the history of the city is Butkus and Singletary and Urlacher and Sayers and Peyton. And Johnny Morris, who played in the 50s, is the all-time leading receiver in Bears franchise history. He has 5,050 career receiving yards. So it's just remarkable. And so like offensive passing football, we've never seen it before. A year of Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey, a year of Eric Kramer, a year of Jay Cutler, but nothing sustained. So what Caleb Williams, not only does he have the ability to play like Rodgers or Mahomes, hopefully, and be like a modern quarterback, which this city has never really seen before, but he also is a celebrity. On draft night, he was talking about advice that he got from Denzel Washington, whose number is in his phone. He played in Hollywood. He's cool. He has a huge Instagram following. He was rich upon arrival. Like there's just, this town is so starved. Yeah, for the star power, but also just for excellence on the one thing that everybody can agree on in the city, that if Caleb Williams is what he is supposed to be, he will own that town. Own it.
Yeah. You and I live in cities, and this is interesting, LA and Chicago, where people that don't live there have incredibly strong opinions that are anti
Oh,
that city.
God. Don't,
So,
yeah, it
yeah,
pisses me
yeah,
off. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah. So, there's things I like. I love Vancouver, BC for what I like it for. Its proximity to the waterfront and the kindness of its people. I like its international flavor. I love London, the history of it, parks everywhere, great hotels, incredible pubs, lounges, best bar city in the country. I like Los Angeles because I love the weather. It's just a vast city, 31 music venues. I mean, just everything you want. I'm literally, I can feel that I just took a nap with my door open and I can, feel the water and hear the water. It's like, okay. And then there's Chicago, which I love for a lot of reasons. I think it's a vibrant downtown. I think the architecture, the river running through the city, love the people, love the people. It's also a great guy town. Sports, music, steaks, beautiful, beautiful people. It's a guy's town. It's my favorite guy's town. Like nothing against, everybody, but it's like if you had to say one city in the country, five guys, let's party. Chicago's really good. I mean, you basically have a beach on the city. You park a boat 30 yards, stare at the city. I've done that 4 or 5 times. But it's interesting. We live in a time with social media that these cities are highly criticized, tend to lead left with their politics. That's the reason for it. What is it like to live in Chicago when you hear about the outrageous crime and the danger of the city? Like, what is your experience living there?
Hey, football fans, if you're looking to dominate your fantasy league next year, then we've got the channel for you. From the NFL draft through training camp in week 1 to Super Bowl Sunday, Fantasy Pros is the home of football content you cannot afford to miss. Subscribe today, and your team will be in championship form in no time.
Okay, so you might remember the last Radiothon that I did 3.5 years ago. You promoted it on the show. I named it the What About Chicago Radiothon because it was a play on words, because when people talk about like gun control, they'll say, well, what about Chicago? They've got strict gun laws, but they still have bad gun violence. And it's just such a bad faith argument, because if you look up the stats on the crime, a huge percentage of the guns that are involved in illegal crime come from Indiana, which is an 8-minute drive away. You pay a $6 toll, and you can go get whatever you need, and then you drive it back in, and they don't search your trunk, and that's part of the issue, right? So we're not surrounded by states that have the same laws as us, and these people that make that argument know it, but they don't care. So does Chicago have its problems? Of course. Does it have poverty? Of course. Does it have a gun violence problem? No doubt about it. But it has so many incredible people that are doing everything in their power to solve those problems and to work on it, that I just hate when people who aren't from here describe it as a war zone because they read a clip of they see a clip on the news and they've never been there. And it's like, stop. You don't care about solving the problem. You're just crapping on people who are actually working to solve it. And so either keep Chicago out of your mouth, get involved in solving the problem if you really care about it, or come here and see that you can go to Oak Street Beach or North Avenue Beach or Michigan Avenue or the West Loop or the United Center or Salt Shed, this new amazing venue right in the heart of the city, or, you know what I mean? Like any number of world-class restaurants and neighborhoods and crazy diverse culture, from like Pilsen to Hyde Park to Wicker Park. Like, you know what I mean? It's unbelievable. It's a city of neighborhoods. And so I love Chicago. I love the people. I get defensive when people make those bad faith arguments about it. Would you want to be in the wrong part of town by yourself at 1 a.m? No, probably not. But could you go to the 10 p.m. show at the Chicago Theater and get out at 11:30 or midnight and be perfectly safe, on State Street in downtown Chicago? Of course. And then you could ride the red line to wherever you were going and be fine. And, so it's just so much of it is blown out of proportion and based on stereotypes and used for political purposes that it's honestly upsetting, because I do think it does real damage to people. I remember I was in Israel. This was years ago. I was in Israel, and I said that I was from Chicago, and someone asked me if it was safe. And I was like, really? Israel? You've been literally at war with every country that borders you in your 68 years of existence or whatever it was at the time. And you're asking me about the safety of Chicago. So the reputation really does matter, and it really does travel internationally. But listen, I mean, the weather sucks in the winter. The taxes are high. We've had some corrupt politicians in our day. So our money isn't always spent perfectly. But to me, it's the greatest city in the world.